Alrighty, so we just passed 3 o'clock, so that means we can go ahead and get started here. So thanks for coming out today, guys. We're just going to here to learn a little bit more about Docusign and what that means for your kind of transactions going forward. Kind of show you how it kind of correlates to what you do with Loop, and kind of show you one of the best workflows to kind of help you through your whole real estate transaction process to make it as painless as possible. So for any of your transactions, we're going to start off over in the Opportunities tab. It's a little handshake here. And so for the purpose of this class right here, we're going to pretend like you already have your opportunity made and you're just busy working on your paperwork side of it. So essentially you have a client, you made a contact for them, and you made an opportunity. If any of these are newer concepts to you, don't worry, feel free to reach out to me after the class and I can kind of back up on some of the basics of command. But for now, we're really looking at that transaction management side. So I'm just going to go over to all opportunities and open up one of the first ones that I have pulled. So you can see this opportunity that I have for my client, John Johnson. He has a listing over here. And so if I go over to my Documents tab, which is where we're going to be spending the majority of our time today, you can see that I can either sync the transaction or go to the transaction. So you have the option to use either .loop or Docusign through this process here. So depending on what you started the transaction with, will determine where it takes you when you hit that Go to Transaction button. So you can see that I've used Docusign with this account before, so it'll let me pull into my Docusign room. But I'm going to back up and show you what it looks like when you start a whole new opportunity. Or I'm sorry, not a new opportunity, but start a new transaction for that opportunity. So this is basically going to take you from start to finish with all the stuff that you have to do on the Docusign half of the transaction. So if I go into one of my blank opportunities that I have, like the Smith listing, just going to jump over my Documents tab just like where we were. You know, it might be a little bit easier if I just go ahead and start from scratch and make an opportunity. So I'll do that for you guys. So if I wanted to make a listing for myself, go ahead and throw that in there, put in a couple details. Again, this is all some of the basic command stuff that I would love to double back and help you out with if that's anything that you need. But in order to kind of take advantage of most of your people's time here today, I really want to kind of show the Docusign side of things. So without further ado, let's jump to Docusign. All you're going to do is hit that Start Transaction button and then Docusign. And if you don't have that Docusign button popping up right here, that's okay. All you have to do is click on your name and sign in to your Docusign account or create a Docusign account, depending. All you would have to do is go to your settings and click Authorize, and that will launch you through the setup process. But for here, I can just click on that Docusign button. And from there, you can see that it created my whole Docusign room for me. So this is essentially where your whole transaction is going to live. It'll pull over any of the details from the contact or the listing name that you have. Or if you fill in more details from the details page in command. So if you go to this section here, you can see all the different details that I have in here will also get pulled over into my Docusign rooms. So if you want to kind of save yourself some time from having to put things in both places, it's a great way to kind of get that started early, and then it'll all transfer over for you. So now that I'm out of the details section, this is going to be your main document section here. So from what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be adding some of the required documents that you need in order to go through your transaction. If you aren't sure what those required documents are, you can simply look through the checklist in command. So you can see that these are the required documents because they're flagged red for me. So I need an MLS detail, a listing agreement, disclosure, etc. So now I'm going to go ahead and start adding those documents, filling them out, and then sending them to my client. Let's start off nice and easy here. I'm just going to hit that Add button and then Docusign Forms. The big difference for having a form versus just having a PDF is that these forms are going to be fillable, meaning that they already have spots for signatures and all stuff like that. So it really saves you a lot of time. Now I'm just going to be going to the Forms group and selecting either my buyer forms or my listing forms, or if you're on a team, you can select that area there. But essentially, this is going to be the queued up list of all the required contracts that you need for that area. We are still working on kind of finalizing these lists. So if there's anything that you don't see here, please feel free to let us know, and we will be able to edit that. If you're looking for some forms that aren't required but are applicable to your situation, then you probably want to look at the whole library. This is where you can find every form you can think of. You'll either have access to the GACAR board forms, our office forms, or if you're an agent, you can also have access to the FAR forms, the Florida State forms. So from here, let's just say I'm going to go ahead and sign the listing agreement with the transaction broker. I'm going to add that to my loop, or I'm sorry, not my loop, my room. Room is the equivalent of loop from .loop for those of you guys that are kind of making the transition. But for some of you newer people, go ahead and start using the new terminology of room. So you can see that now I have this document in here. And so I'm just going to start prepping and filling it out before I go to send it off to my client. Do I have any questions about what I've kind of run through so far? I know I kind of rushed through the front half, but I really felt like this back half is where a lot of the questions are going to be coming up. Cool. Alrighty, so you can see that my name filled in there because I already put myself down as the client. So that will be populated there. Any additional information will be filled out as you write the contract here. You can start typing, put in the street address, 123 Main Street. And as you would go, just keep on filling out your contract as you normally would. You'll notice that there are seller signature boxes for me, but they aren't visible yet, and that's because I'm not in the client view. So right now I'm just prepping it for my client as the realtor or as the admin. Once I filled out all the boxes that I need to, checked off the boxes that are applicable for my client, I can go ahead and hit save and close. So now I have this nice and prepped document that is all ready for my clients to sign. So now I'm going into the next step of my transaction. I'm getting ready to send that to the client. That'll be done in your envelopes tab over here. So just like when we had that new document, we're also going to make a new envelope by clicking the same blue button. And from here, you have the options to either pull in the documents that you just prepped from the room. So I can see that I'm going to add this one that I just had. Or you could also start from scratch and use a template or upload a PDF. So basically, in case you forgot one, like, oh man, I have a listing agreement, but I also need to be able to fill out XYZ. You'll be able to add additional templates here. You can see my templates are here, but shared with me are where the vast majority are going to be. That's where those GACAR, FAR, and Office forms are going to fall for you. So this is a little bit of a slower way to be adding forms. So that's why I usually recommend that our agents add your room docs before we started the envelope process, just because it is a little bit less functional for you, but you still have access to everything that you would need. So I've got my document that's prepped. I'm going to start adding recipients so I can send it to my clients. And one important part is that you select these pre-tagged roles sections, because this is what's going to tell it, hey, person X needs to sign in all the X signature boxes, and person Y needs to sign in the Y signature boxes. So essentially, that's how it all kind of lines up for you. So if I'm seller 1, and seller 1 is going to be Ryan Chase, my client. If I am the listing agent, then I would also want them to be able to see it. So I'm going to pretend that I've got Sue here as my listing agent for me. So I'm just going to hit add selected. And so now it knows to have these two people with their defined roles. As seller 1, they have a needs to sign box. So they'll be able to sign everything that they need to. A listing agent, so for this form, they might not necessarily need to sign anything, depending on the contract. So I can change the option to needs to view if it's something that I just want them to be able to look at, but they aren't the ones signing it. And you have the option to add additional people and edit their emails here. One thing that is unique about Docusign is that you don't have to have different email addresses for each client. So let's say you're working with an older couple who maybe share an email address. It's okay, you can use that same email address for both of the people. So that really kind of saves a step. And then essentially, as you get all the way to the bottom here, you're just defining what you want it to look like in that email. That's going to kick it all off for you. So please DocuSign these forms. And then in the message, in the bulk body there, I'm just going to say, hey, Ryan, here are those contracts. I went over with you last week. It's a great way to kind of have that little thing so that they know what they're looking at here. And then from there, I'm going to hit this next button. And then now we're going to be able to get into what I called that client view earlier. So you'll be able to see where my client is supposed to be signing. So it's a great way to kind of double check and make sure everything looks right before you send it off. From here, I'm going to go ahead and see what it looks like for Ryan Chase. He was the seller one that I defined over there. So all of my yellow boxes are going to be applicable to Ryan. You can see he has the initial there, he has the initial there. And then if I decide that the template might be missing something, or if I didn't check off one of these boxes earlier, I can add additional signature fields, initial fields, dates, all of those different things. If I forgot to check off this buyer's agent box, for example, let's just say I drag this over here and then go ahead and check off that box. So that will give the client the option to either check off the box or not. It's really pretty straightforward once you get down to this part of it. Essentially what you're doing is kind of complementing what's already on the template by just adding in. So now that you see what your client has, you'll be able to hit this recipient preview button. And this recipient preview is going to be the exact same as the link that goes to your client. So it'll really kind of break down what it is that they see. So now that you know where they have to sign, you can see what their process for signing it will look like. Here I'm viewing as Ryan Chase. I have the option to change if I had multiple signers. But if I were Ryan and I was going in, I would hit the start button. I would be able to look through my form here, see that all looks good. The start will jump me to where I need initial. I'll click there, I'll sign. And that's essentially how this whole process is going to go. Your client is able to just scroll straight through to knock out as many forms as they have there. And that's really one of the benefits of sending off forms as part of an envelope, is that you can really kind of take care of business all at once for your clients. So you can put your listing agreement, you can put your other forms in there, and it'll queue them all up so they can sign them all at once. Do you have any questions for anyone out there?
How can we add our team logo to the document?
Yeah, so if you wanted to have your own custom branded forms, then that would be something that you could upload into your personal area of your Docusign. So let me show you what that looks like. We're working on providing some team forms in a similar form group, like I mentioned earlier in the area. But for now, this is all information and documents that you can put in your own area. So if I were under documents, you can see I have my room docs, but I don't quite have anything else in there. So if I wanted to upload a PDF of my team forms, I would be able to do that there. So let me just pull up a PDF here. Let's go with the market sets from this morning. And from here, I have my new branded form, let's say. So all I would have to do is be able to go in, see the PDF, and then later down the line, I would be able to put in my signature boxes and do all the stuff that that template really provided for me. And that's pretty much how you'd be able to take care of it. And it would be the exact same kind of process.
Right, just one more question. So doing it by that way, uploading the form, then we have to add all of the auto fields. Is there no way to add our team logo to the documents that are already in Docusign with the autofill fields in place?
At this time, no, because of some of the legal ramifications of like copyrighted forms and stuff like that. I'm actually speaking with our legal consultant, Murray, this afternoon to kind of find out what it looks like to brand forms and be able to put them and provide them to all of our teams. But for right now, if you're not using like an external service, then I would recommend kind of using what you've been doing in the past. Beyond that, we are working on, like I mentioned, that form group for us. So let me go back and kind of show you what I was referring to there. So we have the library that's going to have everything that you need from the state, and then each group is going to be built off of depending on the kind of transaction that you have. And then this is something that we're working towards offering our teams further down the line of having their own forms in there. So if you had all of your branded things like that, this is something that we could work on having in there. But as of right now, it's not something that we offer. So if I were to jump back over my envelope, you can see that's still a draft because I didn't officially send it. But if I jump back in and hit this next and send button, that's essentially going to be the end of what our transaction looks like. I'm sorry, not the transaction, but the document signature part. All you would have to do is really wait for your clients to kind of respond. You'll get notified as each person fills out the form. And then once you're good to go, you will be able to pull everything back into Command. So I went off and sent that. So you can see that it still needs a signature. So let's wait for my client to send it. But let's go ahead and say that we did finish that. Now that we have all of our things in our documents, we can jump back into Command to kind of wrap it up and submit both our documents and commissions. We just hit that attach button and then hit the Docusign. So it'll show you all the things that you have in your room. And from here, it'll ask you to match up the command checklist with the documents that you already put in. So you can see that I put in that cancel listing agreement, put that there. Let's pretend that this MSA was also a disclosure. That would be lined up there. And so from here, you can see that I have the attached forms and I would be able to submit to my market center. I had all of the required forms completed. Just hit that blue button and that will essentially take you through your transaction. Do I have any other questions for anyone out there? This is pretty much the meat and potatoes of what we have here. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out and for learning about DocuSign with me. If any of you guys run into any problems or have any questions as you're kind of diving into DocuSign, which is something that I highly recommend, it's definitely an experience kind of based platform where you can really learn the most just from using it and kind of getting your feet wet, then feel free to give me an email or shoot and give me a call. I would love to help you guys out. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.